This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard, hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for us on your podcast provider. Driving tests have just restarted, and the queues of learners outside this centre in Wandsworth were round the block from first thing. Sales of used cars are also up. They're back to pre-lockdown levels, with 12,000 a day being sold in England last month. It's an indication that as people are expected to start going back to work, they're choosing to stay away from trains and buses. But our editorial column says the resurgence of the car is a failure in public health messaging.
Guidance from government is all over the place. We're told we can use public transport if we really want to, but operators aren't being encouraged to welcome people back and are still trying to keep them apart. That's not what's happening elsewhere in Europe. In France, trains are full this summer. London has been left in limbo. Pubs are open, gyms come back at the weekend, but office life can't return without a public transport system. People who run London's transport and national trains are being frustrated by indecision in government and the mayor's office. Catch a holiday flight this weekend and the chances are every seat will be packed. So how have we ended up flooding London streets with polluting cars while leaving our amazing transport system a ghost town?
With me now is the environmental psychologist, Dr. Ian Walker. Dr. Walker, can we get people back to the office without them using cars?
There's quite a few other ways to get to the office. It's understandable that people are nervous about public transport at the moment. You know, the idea of being in closed spaces with other people is obviously something we've all been warned about recently. But what people need to be doing at this point, before just rushing headlong into grabbing the car or even buying a new car, people need to be looking at what their goal is. And generally, the goal is not to have a car or use a car. Generally, the goal is to get to work or get to the shops. And it turns out when you look at it in that way, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people have a lot more options. And one of the ones we've been talking about a lot recently, especially with the Bike is Best campaign, is trying to encourage people to look at cycling as an option that will work for a lot of people for a lot of their journeys.
Can cycling, though, work in a big, busy city like London, particularly if those roads start getting busy again?
Well, it's a bit of a... I almost said it's a two-way street, and I caught myself as I was saying that. There's more than one thing going on. On the one hand, above all, let's just cut to the chase. Above all, what we need is policymakers, the people who run our cities, to be creating an environment where cycling and walking feel easy and where they feel safe and where they feel convenient. And above all, that needs to come from the top. We need people redesigning our streets to make them work and make them safe. And we need people using them responsibly. So, for example, we need people not driving dangerously in city centres, moderating their speed, and even not driving into city centres as much as possible.
I think during lockdown, well, I know that scientifically it was proven that pollution levels have gone down, but I think people genuinely noticed. Will they notice as quickly if pollution levels go back up?
Well, anecdotally, I think they already have. I think the moment Boris Johnson said, go back to work, I think everybody noticed that it changed that following Monday morning. We were straight back to where we were. And the number of people I've just met personally who've commented on how poor the air became when we got back in our cars and vans, I think everybody's aware of what a difference it's made.
So it can be done then. We can safely go back to work without having to rely on cars to get us there.
In an awful lot of cases, one of the figures that always preys on the front of my mind is if you look at national travel data, the bulk of journeys in this country, the bulk of car journeys are extremely short. Half of our car journeys are under 5 miles. Most of those are done with one person in the car. It's an incredibly inefficient way to get about in urban settings. And so many of those journeys, not all of them, but a huge number, could be done by bike.